A drought grips the Cerrado. A predator lurking under the dry grass, muscles tense, breath held as if stopped. An ancient creature motionless as stone, cold eyes glancing past. Just a glance, and the confrontation explodes. Cerrado on fire, the uncompromising battle of predators. If the Amazon is the lungs of South America, then the Cerrado is the silent heart that nourishes the continent. The world's second largest savanna region, the Cerrado stretches nearly 2 million square kilometers, covering more than 20% of Brazil's territory. Landlocked, it is the source of great rivers such as the Amazon, São Francisco and Paraná. On the arid land, fire does not destroy but regenerates. Trees grow thick bark, deep roots, creating a harsh but vibrant ecosystem where more than 10,000 species of plants and thousands of animals and ancient indigenous communities have learned to live in harmony with earth, water and fire. Jaguar, the lord of the Cerrado forest. The largest cat in the Americas, the jaguar possesses the strongest bite in the feline world, with a bite force of up to 2,000 psi, enough to penetrate the skull of its prey or break the shell of an Amazonian tortoise. But not only is it powerful, the jaguar is also an artist in the art of ambush. With a supple body, rippling muscles hidden under a golden coat covered with rosettes, it quietly moves through the tall, dense grass, almost without making a sound. The jaguar holds its breath, its amber eyes attentively watching every tiny movement of its prey. Under the scorching sun of the Cerrado dry season, when the river shrinks into stagnant pools amid the scorched grasslands, the jaguar reappears, silently, persistently, and unpredictably. By the water's edge, a group of capybaras rest, half submerged in the cool water, half exposed to the shore, looking calm and seemingly inviolable in the territory they have known for generations. The jaguar is in no hurry. It It has been following the group for 2 days, memorizing their drinking times, their familiar retreat routes. Silent as a shadow, it approaches the water's edge, belly pressed to the ground, each step impossibly slow, almost blending in with the dry yellow grass. Less than 10 meters away, it stops, lowers its body, does not breathe heavily, and waits for a few more minutes until the capybara breaks away from the herd to graze near the shore. In an unannounced moment, the jaguar rushes out. A single bite, ending the prey's life almost instantly. The jaguar is in no hurry to eat. It drags the carcass to the shore, away from the water, where the caiman crocodiles also lurk for a chance to steal the kill. No growling, no sharing, no hurry, just a solitary predator and its reward. The jaguar mates all year round, not seasonally. Females in heat will roar loudly and leave a pheromone trail, rare in solitary species. Mating occurs continuously for several days, each time only a few tens of seconds, but repeated dozens of times to increase the chance of fertilization. When the gestation period ends, after about 100 days of solitude in the sparse Cerrado forest, the female jaguar quietly retreats to a hiding place. It is not a majestic cave or a tall, airy tree, but usually a dense canopy, a dry hollow or dark bush among burnt grass and jagged rocks, where the wind hardly penetrates and enemies have difficulty following the trail. There, in absolute silence, 1 to 4 cubs are born, blind, matted with fur, and so weak that they barely breathe. The mother leopard neither roars in pain nor roars in pride. She simply licks the blood and placenta clean, then curls up around her cubs, a living fortress, untouchable by any eyes. During the first weeks, the mother leopard hardly leaves the birthing ground, only sneaking out when necessary to hunt small prey, enough to feed herself and keep her milk flowing. She eats in haste, sleeps alertly, and raises her cubs in absolute silence because any noise could attract hyenas, crocodiles, or even her own kind. The cubs nurse for 3 months, then begin to go out and learn to crawl, stalk and play as part of their first instinctive training. Every missed pounce, every cautious step, every time the mother bites the nape of the neck when she loses focus, all are part of the survival lesson. At 6 months of age, the cubs begin to follow their mothers on hunts, not to kill, but to learn. They hide behind bushes, watching their mother's every move. The mother only attacks when absolutely necessary, and always leaves a trail so that the cubs can learn to read the forest by smell, sound and wind. The training lasts for 18 to 24 months. When the cubs are old enough to break free from their mother's shadow, the separation is silent. The mother turns away, never looking back. The cub, now a lone hunter, carries with it the memories, instincts and training of a mother who never needed to say she loved her, but was always the only one who protected her life in her weakest days. Dawn has just broken over the sunburnt marshes of the Cerrado. The water is as still as moss-covered glass, but underneath is a world waiting to explode. A caiman, the apex reptile of the Cerrado swamps, lay motionless on the shore. In a patchy patch of mud mixed with sunburnt grass, an adult caiman lay as still as a dark log. Its back was covered with thick, rough scales, shining a grey-brown color dotted with moss and dried mud, making its body almost completely blend with the ground. Its short, rough legs were neatly folded beside its body, its claws hidden under the grass. Only its large, flat head was slightly raised, with 2 eyes like 2 cold, shiny pebbles floating on its surface, motionless and inert, but observing every movement around it without blinking. The long snout, covered with rough bony spines, lightly touching the wet mud, revealed rows of jagged, saw-like teeth. Near the tail, the scales rose into rows of sharp ridges, extending all the way to the end of its body, like the dorsal spines of an ancient creature that had survived for millions of years. The massive body lay still, so still that the untrained eye could easily mistake it for a moss-covered rock. But inside that stillness, every muscle seemed to be slightly tensed. Every sense was ready. Just a touch of water, a small sound, and the whole body would explode like a trap, opening in the blink of an eye. An adult male jaguar, the apex predator of the jungle, quietly approached the water's edge. Its eyes were shining, half hungry, half challenging, locked on the caiman. In the rare confrontations between caiman and jaguar, just a split second of carelessness could change the roles of prey and predator. The jaguar was not an impatient predator. The caiman remained motionless, seemingly unaware. But this ancient reptile had never been easy prey. The jaguar gathered its strength to spring up like a living spear, straight at the crocodile. The battle broke out in the blink of an eye, but was extremely fierce. Finally, as the struggle wore on, the jaguar rose, chest heaving, eyes cold over the limp crocodile at its feet. The brief violence ended in silence, but the traces left behind lasted for hours. The waterfowl scattered, and the rising sun shone brightly on the spot where the two predators had settled their fates with strength, strategy, and pure survival instinct. This was not just a hunt, it was a fierce harmony between two ancient forces, where only one side emerged victorious from the swamp, while the other returned to the mud forever. The maned wolf, the quintessential loner of the South American savanna. Not quite a wolf, not quite a fox. This beast had a distinctive physique, a long, antelope-like body, and unusually long hind legs that helped it glide through the waist-high grass. Its steps are both decisive and alert, its large ears swiveling independently like two sensitive antennas, picking up every insect movement in the bushes. The maned wolf is most active at dusk and dawn, the transition between light and dark, when temperatures cool and prey begin to leave their hiding places. It often moves alone across dozens of square kilometers of territory, leaving scent trails of pheromone-rich urine on tree stumps, a silent message to its brethren. This area is taken. The maned wolf's diet is very flexible. During the dry season, when most streams dry up and vegetation turns yellow, it switches to eating wolf apples, a juicy fruit that contains up to 90% moisture and is naturally resistant to parasites. When conditions are favorable, the maned wolf also hunts mice, lizards, small birds, insects, and sometimes even baby birds that have fallen from their nests. The maned wolf hunts by creeping up close in the tall grass, then suddenly springing up in a high jump, its forelegs slamming down on its prey. There was no roar, no triumphant expression, just the calm gaze and silence of a solitary predator. It lowered its head, grabbed its prey with its closed jaws, and slowly swallowed it, each movement neat and restrained. No rush, no show. That small meal was just part of the harsh rhythm of life it had long been accustomed to. Under the low, leafless canopy of the Cerrado, where sunlight filtered through the withered grass and created flickering patches of light and dark on the cracked ground, a South American rattlesnake lay coiled, motionless, its body covered in dust, almost indistinguishable from the dry grass around it. About a meter away, a small field mouse emerged from behind a scorched tree stump. It lightly dug into the ground, looking for dry seeds left over from the rainy season. The sound of its tiny claws scraping the ground, to human ears meaningless, but to the rattlesnake, it was the echo of life approaching. The pair of heat-sensing pits on either side of the snake's head, a heat-seeing system, began to detect the faint heat of the moving mouse. It followed every step but remained still, motionless, like a lifeless log. The rattlesnake's head was slightly raised, its eyes locked on the target in front. Its forked tongue continuously protruded and retracted, not to find its way, but to sense the concentration of breath and the trace of heat radiating from the living prey. Each ring of muscle on its body tightened, gently pushing forward in a smooth, smoke-like slither, without making a single rustling sound. With each movement, it seemed to melt into the ground, blending into the dry dust and low grass, a massive body drifting toward death without the prey knowing. At that very moment, the rattlesnake's entire body tensed like a bowstring, reaching its limit of endurance. Without warning, without a sign, it suddenly burst open. The attack was so fast that the human eye could not register it. Only a streak of grey flashed forward and then stopped in a motionless position. The two curved fangs popped out and dug deep into the mouse's body, injecting a stream of venom with extreme pressure, enough to disrupt the nervous system and destroy soft tissue almost instantly. The rattlesnake immediately retreated a few steps, curled up, eyes never leaving the struggling prey. Its body twitching slightly before becoming completely still, a quiet, neat death. With a smooth movement like a gliding wind, the rattlesnake slowly approached the prey's body. Like an ancient reflex ingrained in its instincts, its tail began to vibrate gently. A dry, rattling sound rang out from the hollow scales at the end of the tail, like the sound of dry rice grains rubbing against each other in the quiet space of the Cerrado. It was not a threat, but a signal that a hunt had been neatly concluded. The new snake slithered over to the mouse carcass, opening its jaws like a flexible hinge and slowly swallowing its prize. While most snakes lay eggs, rattlesnakes reproduce by giving birth directly, a unique evolutionary trait. Instead of laying eggs outside, the mother snake holds the eggs inside her body, the embryos developing completely inside a thin layer of nutrient-rich tissue. When the time comes, the young snakes will hatch and crawl out of the mother's body, ready to live independently immediately. This form of reproduction increases the survival rate of the young in natural conditions that are a major threat to eggs laid in the environment. Thanks to this trait, rattlesnakes can maintain their species sustainably, even when living in a challenging land like the Cerrado. Under the harsh sky of the Cerrado, each creature is not just a part of the ecosystem, but a survival warrior, tempered by fire, sun, and time. The jaguar, with a bite as strong as a sledgehammer, ambushes in silence and kills in the blink of an eye. The maned wolf, tall and lean, solitary but full of strategy, glides through the tall grass like a ghost, hunting with quiet precision. The caiman, an ancient scaly crocodile, lies motionless for hours, only to launch a fatal attack in a split second. The rattlesnake, small but deadly, patiently lurks and strikes like lightning in the cracked earth. They not only survive, but also dominate this wasteland in their own way. You have just witnessed the true power of nature. Leave a comment. Which species surprised you the most? And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to continue accompanying the creatures surviving in the harshest land on the planet. Masai Mara, where life and death always go hand in hand. The herd of horses must overcome lurking traps and ruthless hunters. Every second that passes is a challenge. The silence is a sign of an approaching storm. The race for survival begins, suffocating with no way back. Masai Mara, the fierce race for survival of Kiko and his kind. The sunlight gradually appears on the vast grasslands of Masai Mara. The sky is dyed a warm orange, while the ground is still covered in a thin layer of mist, creating a quiet space. Everything seems to be immersed in a peaceful moment. But a fierce scene is happening nearby. A sweaty warthog is being chased by a roaring lion. They rush past like a storm. The warthog, with short legs and a hurried gait, eyes wide with fear. It looked like a marathon without a clear track. The scene was chaotic. A large family with countless black and white stripes moving across the grassland. Kiko, a young zebra. It had a strong body with a distinctive black and white striped coat, which was their most recognizable feature. Other adult zebras were tall, strong, with sturdy legs for moving across the vast grasslands. Their backs were often slightly arched, with long, tapered tails. Their heads were large, their necks long. They were important tools for finding food and observing predators. Born into a large and powerful herd, Kiko entered this world with an unchangeable mission. He had to survive. Kiko learned to recognize his mother's call among hundreds of other sounds. He learned never to be separated from that moving mass of black and white stripes. It was not just a herd, it was life. The zebras continued their journey across the savannah. But today, there was something different in the air. An invisible restlessness spread throughout the herd. The leaders were restless, their ears constantly swiveling, picking up on every distant sound. A wordless command was given, and the sea of stripes began to move in one direction. The Great Migration had arrived. The journey brought them to the banks of the vast Mara River. A journey filled with hope. The river was not as gentle as the pools Kiko had known. It roared, flowing a murky brown, carrying the power of destruction. The herd paused at the jagged bank. Hundreds of pairs of eyes stared into the rushing water, uncertain. The scent of danger was so thick that Kiko could taste it. Her young hooves trembled, not from the cold, but from a primal fear rising from deep within. This was the first great challenge in her short life. After a moment of tense hesitation, a large, mighty stallion suddenly neighed loudly and dove straight into the water. They dove, a chaotic scene, the neighing filled with panic. Kiko was swept away by the flow of the herd. A huge black shadow suddenly rose from the murky water. It was not a log. It was the Mara River crocodile waiting, a predator known for its ruthlessness. It was not aimed at Kiko. Its target was Kiko's mother. In just a moment, the crocodile reached out, its jaws wide open to grab the mother zebra. The crocodile had missed its prey. The mother zebra had reached the shore with a wound on her hind leg. Kiko froze. Her chest was pounding, her 4 young hooves were about to collapse. The smell of mud and cold water rushed into her nose, carrying the breath of death. Breaking free from her daze, Kiko frantically swam past the crocodile. It dared not look back. The fear had turned into a force that pushed it forward. Kiko had overcome it. But the deep wound in its mother's leg was the first cruel proof of the price of life. The zebras and Kiko managed to avoid and cross the raging water. Although they had just escaped danger, Kiko's mind still echoed with the sound of the fierce waves and the image of the terrifying crocodile. Kiko understood that survival sometimes comes at a very high price. The zebras and Kiko thought that the danger had passed. But they were wrong. In the bushes not far away, a pair of amber eyes observed everything. The pride of lions was waiting for the fatigue and chaos of the zebras after crossing the river. They moved skillfully through the bushes, pausing to observe. The eyes of the lions were always sharp. Every movement of the zebras did not escape their attention. Kiko and the zebras were leisurely, unaware that the predator was lurking just a few steps away. As the zebras began to move deeper into the grasslands, the lions quietly deployed their formation. They did not roar, did not make a sound. They were the ghosts of the savannah. A lion suddenly charged from the right, another blocked the front from the left. The pincer tactic was perfect. The entire zebra herd exploded in panic. Kiko was swept away with the herd. Suddenly, Kiko's friend, a stallion, suddenly turned away from the herd. Kiko saw his friend running in the wrong direction. A lion approached the errant one and suddenly galloped away. The scene was chaotic. The whinnying was deafening, and the other lions also charged at the same time. The agility of the lion made it impossible for his friend to escape. In just a moment, the lion's powerful jaws locked and pulled him to the ground. The zebra could not escape. That tragic scene became a shield for the remaining horses. The lion's attention was now focused on the prey they had just caught. Seizing that precious moment, the zebras, including Kiko and his injured mother, had enough time to escape to a safer area. The zebras huddled together, still in shock. Kiko stood huddled next to his mother. He was no longer the curious foal he once was. Kiko's eyes now contained a deep sadness and understanding. He had crossed the river. He had escaped the lions, but Kiko had lost a friend. He understood that in this race for life, sometimes the life of one individual is exchanged for the sacrifice of another. Unity had saved his mother from the crocodile. But it was the chaos and death of their own kind that saved both of them from the lions. Kiko and the zebras had crossed the fierce river and escaped the deadly hands of the lions. But in this wildlife, peace is only temporary. New dangers still await them, lurking in the shadows of the steppe. The zebras and Kiko continued their journey. A strange cry rang out from afar. It was not the sound of a powerful predator like a lion, but a dry, harsh laugh. Hyenas. The name sounded scary, but in reality they were no different from professional players in the game of hunting. Those hyenas, with their bright yellow eyes and skinny bodies that looked like they had just participated in a weight loss competition, did not need to rush into the race. And now they were there. Standing in the darkness of the savannah, staring at the zebras. They were playing a slow but steady game of hunting, with extremely sophisticated tactics. Kiko, the zebra boy, sensed something in the air. The zebras continued to move forward, but he felt that something was wrong. The footsteps were getting closer. Suddenly, several hyenas rushed out from the tall, dry grass. Kiko and the other 3 horses standing nearby were terrified. They ran. They had strayed from the herd, running as fast as they could across the vast grassland. Kiko and another one ran ahead. "Run, run," Kiko screamed in her head, but it was no help. At this moment, one zebra had been left behind. Kiko and his herd mate had escaped. The slower zebra was surrounded by hyenas. A shrill neigh rang out, clearly desperate. It was too late for the zebra. The hyenas had won, with an easy victory that had no effort. The Masai Mara grasslands were still magnificent. But for Kiko, the most brutal lessons had been engraved on him. To survive, one must keep running. And the race would never end. Subscribe to the channel to not miss new wildlife adventures, where every moment was a dramatic battle for survival.